Perfect.
Got it.
Hey guys, I'm going to get my slide deck up and running and I'll give a quick intro as well. Thanks for doing something brief there, Eric. I think with my role as director of player development in the club, I'm actually working so much with the youngsters in Belmont. It's really exciting to get on a call and speak about the older players and the college process with you guys. It's something I've been really passionate about for a while. It's a role that I had in Palo Alto, and then with teams that I've coached in the past in Palo Alto and in Almaden, we had Girls Academy players and MLS Next players, also NPL players who were really involved in this process. And it became really fun getting to know the players, getting to know their goals, and then seeing how they um, sort of progress and try to achieve their personal goals and become little adults throughout the process. And the process here that I'm going to be explaining, I'll go over an overview from a really high level. There's lots of nuances and there's lots of really interesting details in college soccer recruitment. It's a little bit crazy sometimes, and there's so much to discuss. I really want to try to give an overview where everybody can understand what is going on and what players can be doing. Um, so our agenda for today is about the pathway itself, and it's about what college coaches are sort of looking for and what the players can do to take ownership of the process. So we're gonna deal with the landscape overview. We're gonna discuss some things that players can be doing, and we're gonna talk about ways that players can be navigating the process. How do you become recruitable, and what do you do as a recruit? And then we will talk a little bit about the timeline that players should follow or should be following or very close to be following um, if you guys are on that pathway. Um, Before we get into any like real details and information, I kind of want to set some expectations with everybody. Um, every Nearly every player that I've coached or seen in the youth environment, and most of the parents, if not all of the parents, have a preconceived notion that the majority of players that are going to go play college soccer are going to get scouted by being really good players for their clubs or their local high schools. They will then be approached by a scout or a coach who really enjoys watching them play and is going to reach out to them and who's going to make them an offer that includes some sort of financial package to bring them to the college. Um, this is how it works in some American sports, but soccer has a unique niche within the recruiting landscape and within just the sports landscape in general. The reality is that only 2% of players are actively recruited um, into the college that they have been sought after by a coach. 98% of the other players that are in the school playing for any college program have recruited themselves. And that's the process that we're going to talk a little bit about. And I'll go over, what these different governing bodies look like and what are the rules a little bit and what is the process. But it's really important to state from the very beginning that soccer is a self-recruiting sport. Some other American sports, basketball or football, you'll be found if you're really talented. But soccer is not like that. There are strong networks of scouts and coaches and showcases and ID camps that we can take advantage of. But the reality is that the players are going to need to take ownership of the process. And this is on the field. This is what we do, X's and O's on the grass, and this is how you play. But it's also like it's your classroom behavior and it's your behavior in school to be able to get good grades. As Eric mentioned before, this is something that's critical in the process. And it's really important to know that you're going to have to do a lot of legwork if you want to be a recruit to college soccer. I'm just going to share one quick story before I continue as well. In my previous club, I was coaching a girls' academy team, and there was a player named Vianney Garcia on the team. Um, and she wanted to go play in college, and she was navigating the recruitment process, but struggling a little bit. She's a very smart kid, and she wanted to become a mechanical engineer. So a lot of major or bigger organizations that help players really focus on getting them any offer and getting them into a school. But with this player, we sort of changed our strategy and we targeted schools specifically with really reputable mechanical engineering degrees. And at the end of the day, she had five offers, um, Division one, two, and three. And she was able to pick from schools that really matched what she was looking for academically. and she was able to find a very good fit. And she ended up choosing a Division 3 school, not a Division 1 school. She chose a Division 3 school that had something like a 98% graduation rate into like a six-figure job. So this kid really won in terms of being able to play the sport that she loves, go have a very meaningful college experience, and probably have a very good chance to have, a great career after. Um, and this is sort of the strategy that I've developed over a long period of time when I'm helping players and when we try to discuss what's going on with the kids. This is something that we want to try to impart on them is that the process needs to be owned by the player. And if you follow the process and you start looking at college soccer as one piece of a very meaningful college experience, it can kind of change the way you think about what it is that you need to do and how you're going to go about it. And you can become one of these 98% self-recruited players very easily. Eric, before I move on, just want to make sure you guys can see the presentation and can hear me
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
So we'll get into the governing bodies now, and there's actually five governing bodies. We're only going to talk about three. Um, and the first one that we're going to discuss is the NCAA. This is probably the one that everybody has heard of. This is by far and away the most well-known and popular. And this is where a lot of
Actually,
the
sorry,
players
Nate.
and
Sorry. We're seeing your notes, not the presentation.
seeing my notes, not the presentation.
Sorry.
Give me a second.
Yes.
Um, Pause here. Let me get sharing. Do, 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 do.
All right.
What
Thanks for
about
checking.
now?
There you go. Perfect. That looks a
Okay.
lot better.
Wow. I made such a pretty presentation. I'm just going to go
I
back through the
know. That's
slides
my
so
bad.
everybody can see that the graphics were done. And thanks for
While
being
we
patient
while
with me,
you're
guys.
flipping through this, one another story. Had worked with like some Stanford coaches, and I was talking to one of the coaches. He went to Colorado Mines. Was it engineering Mines, right? He wanted to be an engineer also. He wasn't making grades, and they basically said, "Well, you either lose your scholarship or you turn into a communications major." And he became a communications major.
There you go. So with the NCAA, there's two main takeaways that I want everybody to get from this. But essentially, what you're looking at is 821 different men's programs divided up between Division 1, 2, and 3 programs. On the women's side, there's 959 programs in Division 1, 2, and 3. There's so many different variety of schools, and there's so many different types of programs out there that doing your research into the type of school you want to go to, trying to figure out who you are as a person, really trying to dig deep into what makes you unique and effective as a player, is all going to be things that inform your decision. But the main takeaways here are that there are almost 1,000 options to play in the NCAA. And within those 1,000 options, again, there's a wide variety of talent levels, of athletic demands, and the location of the school, the climate the school is in. There's so many options for you that I want you to open your mind to more than just the Division 1 options that you've heard about. There are really high quality Division 2 schools, and there are Division 3 schools that play extremely high brands of soccer. And there's great options in all of those. The other takeaway that I want everybody to really think about is that there are by far the most Division 3 schools. Um, there's certain rules when we can talk about what the NCAA recruitment rules are. For example, only Division 1 and 2 schools can offer an athletic scholarship. Division 3 schools cannot. But there's a lot of really high performing academic Division 3 programs. And these are the types of programs where I've probably placed the most players that I've worked with, being into Division 2 or to Division 3 because of the area that Palo Alto and Almaden are in, and Belmont as well. We're really looking for an academic fit as well as a athletic fit. And there's so many different options. When we start getting into later about how we're actually going to navigate the process, it's important to know that not only are there different governing bodies, but there are different divisions within each, and there's different levels even within the division. Division 1, for example, outside of the top 25 schools, which are legitimately um, consistent, high performing programs, there's a lot of variation in the level. And I've sent players who, if you were to ask me, like eye test if they're a Division 1 player, I would have probably said no, I don't think so. And they ended up at Division 1 schools because that program needed a player that fit the player profile of that individual. And everybody's pathway is going to be different. There's no two individuals that are going to have the same recruitment process. And as we go through this, we go to the next governing bodies. It's important to know as well that your process shouldn't be compared to anybody else's. If the best fit for you is at an NCAA Division III, that's where you should be attending. And the reasons that you should go there are going to match what you want in your overall college experience, not just the athletic side of it. The next governing body that I want to bring to everybody's attention, if you don't know, is the NAIA. NAIAs, similar to the NCAA, there's scholarships available. There's a number of schools, there's a wide variety of schools. Some of the major differences between NAIA schools and the NCAA is that the campuses are usually much smaller. Um, there's typically a focus within the majors that are offered. If there's not a specific major offered, there's usually a very narrow lens in terms of what is offered at NAIA schools. And there's often a lot of athletes on campus. A lot of players in all different sports that go to NAIA typically are the student body there. So it's an interesting difference between some NCAA schools, which can be massive. NAIA schools are usually a little bit smaller, specifically or have specialized academic programs. Um, and the environment is just going to feel a little bit different. The school that I have the most experience with that's in the NAIA or was in the NAIA that's very close to us is Menlo College. Menlo College um, is down in Menlo Park. It's not too far away from us. They've just recently switched over to be in the NCAA, but for a long time they were in the NAIA. And as an example, they are a very specific business major school. They do offer a couple other majors, but essentially you're going to Menlo because you're interested in pursuing a business major. And a lot of people that go there also are able to leverage their ability to compete athletically so that they can play and do the academic side. The last one that we're going to discuss today is the NJCAA, and this is the Junior College League. Um, I want to put this in here, even though, again, in my experience in this area, not a lot of players feel like this, not a lot of students feel like this is a legitimate option for them. I can also share that even when I was finishing up high school and thinking about where I was going to college, I just didn't perceive that junior college was a realistic place for me to go. I think there's expectations in this area from peers and from families that students are going to graduate from high school and go off to a 4-year school right away. But it's important to know that the NJCAA is there. And there's also a lot of programs that have a pretty high quality um, soccer program available for players. It's also cheaper. It's usually local. If you don't have the means to go to a bigger school or a more expensive school or travel out of state for a school, sometimes this can be a good option. And there's potentially some benefits as well related to soccer when you go to a school like this or you attend a junior college first because you can sort of figure out what college life is like. And on the field, you get to grow and you get to compete against bigger, older players. And there's some transfer benefits after 2 years at an NJCAA school. You can sometimes transfer into a 4-year program. So
So,
this is an
hey, can I
interesting,
interject there real quick, Nate? Because
absolutely.
Daniel, my youngest son, is actually going to junior college after going to Sacred Heart of all places. There are definite benefits of him going there and playing baseball, and in terms of getting classes, getting out on time, um, it's free, and there's a tag program so he can target schools. And out of his baseball program, 95% go on to a 4-year to play baseball.
Yeah. It's a great option for development and sort of that re-recruitment after you've matured a little bit more. And then going off to a 4-year. I can also share personally that when I went off to San Jose State, I probably wasn't fully ready and mature enough to do that. I probably would have benefited from going to a junior college for 2 years and then transferring. Some student athletes are just not ready for that big jump to an out-of-state, large campus where you're not going to be monitored or observed or being able to help by your parents. So for those students that are on here, I think it's worthwhile to consider this option and to look into it a little bit. We'll talk about the college list that you guys are going to be making in a little bit, but these are the three main governing bodies that you should be aware of. There's many high quality schools within each of these bodies. And really what we're talking about now is the framework for how we are going to find the school that is the best fit for you. And to break that stigma of, oh, you have to go to college to play Division 1 at the top school that everybody's heard of for prestige and for glory. And that's not always the case. It's not always the best fit for every player. So For those of you that are students on here, what should you be doing now? And what are the next best steps in your process? Eric already mentioned it, but it's so important that we hammer this as often as possible and really reinforce that grades are the number one focus that you guys should be having right now. Couple of reasons. First of all, from the college recruitment side, um, you're going to be presenting your grades to the coach of the program that you're interested in. And this might look like you sending in soft transcripts. This could be something that you communicate with. A college coach that sees you at a showcase might be handed a flyer that has your GPA on it. If a college coach sees immediately that your GPA is under the limit that their program requires or is too low to be considered for a program, they are going to cross you off the list and you are not going to be back on the list. So grades are really, really critical because it's one window that a college coach has into who you are. And throughout the college process, these coaches don't know you. It's going to be difficult for you to get in front of them. It's a challenge for them to get to know you. And the key indicators for them are, what club you're playing for, what showcases you're going to, your grades, and how you communicate. If your grades are poor, unfortunately, I've seen this a lot, unless you are truly, truly one of the top players, top recruits that a program might be willing to take a chance on because your talent level is so high. Really, what we're looking for is players who are academically mature enough to go off to college and maintain good grades. And your ability to have good grades throughout high school is an indicator that that is something that you can handle when you go into a college program. The second thing that you can really be doing right now is create a college list. For those of you that are juniors and seniors that are on here, it's really critical that this list gets made now. The list should be 20 to 30 schools. The schools on the list should be NCAA schools, Division One, Two, and Three. There should be NAIA schools in this list, and there should be junior colleges in this list. The reason to cast a little bit more of a wide net and a broad net is because as you do research into the schools, you will start to find that schools that you believed were a good fit or schools that you thought you might want to attend, you'll begin learning that maybe they're not such a good fit. And you'll start finding schools that really sound great to you. And you'll actually start in growing your list over time, sharing more schools onto the list that fit the profile of the schools that you're really interested in. You'll then start doing a lot of research and communication with them. The communication plan really is how how you're going to introduce yourself to the coach, and then how you're going to persistently and consistently follow up with that coach throughout your career. The introductory email can be simple and straightforward. You want to make yourself sound like you are articulate. You want to try to put yourself out there in a way where you have a unique skill set, or in some way you have something that the program can benefit by adding you to. But really, it's about you continuing to develop a relationship with the coach. So the communication plan is incredible. And it is part of what I mentioned at the beginning, which is this is a self-recruiting sport. If you do not reach out to a college coach, you will likely not be seen because they do not know who you are and they do not know what you're doing without you telling them. And your job as a player is to communicate often and tell the coach who you are, why you're worth the look, and communicate enough that they will give you an opportunity to play in front of them. The other thing is your personal, this is for players, your personal COP and then coach advice. COP is your community of practice. If you're a player who's interested in going off to college, I think it's important that you find other players that are going through the process with you. Same age or similar age or older players that have already gone through the process. You can ask them for advice. You can communicate with them. You can talk to them about what their process was like. What was it like when they spoke with a coach online? What was it like when they spoke with a coach on the phone? What was it like when they went on an official visit? And this is another way that you can be taking leadership and ownership of the process without having, your parents reach out on your behalf or without having your coaches need to be holding your hand through the process. It's important that you have other peers around you that can help you with that. And the other thing is get coach advice. If you play for me or you play for Eric or you play for Ojan, you should be coming to us and asking what makes me unique? What makes me effective? What do I need to work on? How can I improve? What's the main way I can get to the next level? And I think in this club, what I've seen is you have some coaches that are very invested in your health and well-being, and we will be honest with you about what it is that you need to do and what your next step should be. Maybe not everybody has the expertise to tell you like what you should do exactly in the process, how to navigate the process. But in terms of what you can do as a player to improve and develop, you have coaches around you that want to help and would be willing to give you advice if we can get you guys to reach out and ask. So how do you get in front of college coaches? The number one way is through direct outreach. This is going to be through social media or through emailing. Um, Social media has become much more prevalent recently, but emailing is going to be your go-to. It's going to be your most direct way to communicate with coaches. The second is going to college showcase events or ID camps. College showcases, for those of you that have never attended one or are not sure what they are, it's essentially a tournament that's run by a state or a governing body or a specific program where a lot of different teams will go to compete with a specific goal that college coaches will be at that event and they will be watching games at that event. An ID camp is something that's more specific to a program. So you may have Stanford run a ID camp that's just for players that want to come to Stanford. You can also have Stanford running an ID camp with several other schools. So you can sometimes find ID camps that have multiple schools involved. And these are ways that you will be playing and you will be competing in front of the coaches. They will be watching you. You'll have an opportunity to speak with them, meet them, shake their hand. And these are the ways that you can really be an effective player by showing them in these events. Proactive communication, we'll get into a little bit more about that in our specific plan, but essentially the proactive communication is important because the number one response that youth players get from college coaches is no response. And that sounds a little crazy, but there's several reasons for that. One is depending on when you're emailing, you may be a little bit too young to even receive a response. Division 2 and Division 1 coaches are not allowed to communicate with a player until June 15th after sophomore year. So you are not even allowed to communicate with a coach in Division 1 and Division 2 until then. Coaches are also extremely busy. If you're emailing them in the midst of a season and they are hard at work trying to win games and help their program be successful, they may not be able to respond or they may not respond until their season is complete or until there's a better moment for them to reach out to you. Just know that every email is read, every player profile is looked at, and every highlight video is watched. You're just not always going to get a response. The only advice I have on that is if you are communicating with a coach and you haven't heard anything for 3 years, that's a red flag that they're probably not interested in you. Other than that, it's not uncommon to go for weeks or months without hearing back from a coach, even when you are regularly a couple times a week or a few times a month reaching out. So those are important things to think about when we're trying to get in front of a college coach. You can also maybe leverage people like myself or Eric or Ojan and Coach Rich who have either coached college before or have a network of coaches that they might be able to reach out to on your behalf. For example, if there's a player on Ojan's team who wanted to go to school in New York or in the Northeast, um, Ojan can ask me, and I have a really good friend who's the Albion national director. He lives in Brooklyn, and he would be able to communicate or at least point that player in the right direction for contacts within the Northeast. So you can leverage your network a little bit, and we can help you maybe try to get in front of a player. And I want to make one point on that as well. We are not like salesmen, and we are not like managers for you, really. It's not our role to put you in front of a coach if you're not doing the work. And that's not something that I think we should be doing. I think we should be guiding, and I really want to be there for players that are wanting to take this next step. However, it goes back to the player must be the one taking ownership. How do you become recruitable? You're going to need a player profile. Your player profile is essentially your resume. It's who you are. It's going to have all of your most important information on it. It'll have a picture of you. It'll have the Belmont logo. It will have your GPA. It'll have your preferred position. It'll have the position that you probably will be playing in that event if you're going to a showcase. And this is a quick ID, quick glance that a coach can look at and know exactly who you are. And typically it works like this. They'll be on the sideline. They'll look at the sheet, they'll find who you are, they'll look on the field and they say, okay, yes, yep, that's Eric G, and then they'll watch from there. But the player profile is really important because again, they don't know who you are. There's no way that they can get to know you without you communicating and seeing you play. And the player profile is going to put a face to who is emailing. A highlight video is the next piece. Highlight video is critical because it's going to demonstrate who you are as a player. Highlight video will get into a little bit more details about what should be going into the highlight video. But essentially, the highlight video should be a 30-second to 3 minute compilation of clips that are your best moments as a player. Your best moments, your most impactful plays. Don't make it too long. It shouldn't be long. It should be short and quick and sweet. And a coach should end that video thinking, wow, that was special. I really want to go see this person play. I'm going to go check them out in the showcase. The communication plan, which we discussed a little bit before, but it's we're going to have a targeted plan, and the idea is to have, strategic times during the year where you are going to reach out. These are going to be in your college coaches off season. These are going to be leading up to showcases and ID camps. These are going to be after showcases and ID camps. And you're also going to be communicating anytime that you have a significant moment of growth. Anytime you add a new clip to your highlight video, you can send that update. Anytime you have a major increase or adjustment in your grades in a positive way, you can send that as well. These are things that you want to be doing pretty regularly, and have an idea when you want to do it instead of randomly doing it. Have a clear, consistent communication plan. It's an indicator to the college coach that you are interested in their program, rather than just having somebody email one time and then never reaching out again. If I had the choice to choose between two players of equal talent and one had been reaching out to me once a month for the last 3 years, communicating to me about my program, communicating to me about why they want to join, and the other option is somebody that emailed one time and I never heard back, it's a pretty clear choice. The last thing is play. We're talking a lot about things that you can do sort of off the field, but at the end of the day, you're gonna be recruitable with all of these aspects, but your talent, the ability for you to play and perform and showcase your unique skills and your abilities and the strengths that you have that will make you an asset to a college program is ultimately what the college coach wants to see. These other things, if you don't have them in order and they're not well done, you might not even get an opportunity to play in front of the coach. So make sure that those are correct, and then you can deal with playing in front of those coaches and doing what we all love to do, which is getting on the grass and kicking the ball around. So, contacting college coaches, we'll get into a couple more specific things that we should be doing. But the main idea is consistent and regular. And consistent and regular could vary depending on your age. For example, a freshman in high school maybe wants to send an introductory email and maybe follow up a couple times in their freshman year. Sophomore year for girls becomes the beginning of the active recruitment process. Girls mature a little bit earlier. College coaches are looking for players that are going to be ready to play day one. And sophomore year is the time for girls that the active recruiting begins. For boys, it's the junior year. But consistent and regular communication before those years looks like an introductory email and several follow-ups from you, typically letting a college coach know what events you're going to be doing, what league you play in, and follow up after those events, whether the college coach was there or not, along with constant updates with your grades and with your highlights. It's so important that you guys have a plan to do this, so that you have an idea of you have a strategy that you're following and following a process rather than reacting to things that are happening in your life or reacting to the situation. What we want is control as much as possible over this, and you guys having consistent and regular communication is one of the most effective ways that you can do it. Um,
Nate, we got a question that says, "Is there a portal where we are able to reach out to college coaches?
I'm sorry, what to reach out?
Some portal to reach out to college coaches?"
You can reach out through some of the, like, for example, Sports Recruits is a business that you can sign up for and create a profile and do a lot of the things that I'm talking about here. Through Sports Recruits, I believe there is a way that you can specifically search and contact schools. However, the way that the number one way that most players are going to do this is after you create your college list with 20 or 30 schools, you're going to put on that list a bunch of different things from, the location of the school, the climate of the school, what division they play. In that list, you're also going to have the contact information for every coach that's on staff. And when you send emails to a school, you're going to contact and add every coach that has their email listed so that you can send them to everybody. A lot of times the head coach is not the person that is going to read or respond to emails. Sometimes the head coach is not even the one that goes to the events to recruit. Sometimes it's the staff. So is there one place where you can do all of it? There is not. However, once you create your list, your college list sort of becomes that place for you. And I think that's better than finding a big general pay to use access point where you can create a list that's specifically tailored to you. And then you can use your own research to determine how you're going to communicate with every program there. Good question, though. Thank you. Um, Communication timeline, I'll talk a little bit about. Um, I'll add a little bit more about that later, but in general, the communication timeline really ramps up for girls sophomore year and for boys in their junior year. And then within all of that, there should be constant, regular communications from the student to the college coach. Highlight video best practices. Again, your highlight video is going to be the way that a college coach is able to see you play before they're going to go to your match. Highlight video best practices. The best things that we can do to support you guys and the best ways that you can get a video is with a high quality tripod that has a view looking down on the field that's more of like a tactical view. This gives anybody watching a good idea of who you are and where you are on the field, but also how you interact with the space and the environment around you. I have coached multiple decent and high level players that use cell phone videos. This was a little bit more challenging to edit and clip together. However, if the cell phone video is clear and you can clearly tell who the player is, that's another way. So I think right now in Belmont, there's not enough high tripod cameras that we could allow every team to be able to use it and access it in the way that you would want to if you're going to be creating really high quality highlight videos. However, you can still get good quality videos through different avenues, and I have seen multiples done with cell phone videos. 30 seconds, I would say, is the minimum. 3 minutes, I would say you're getting close to the maximum. If you are having a video that's over 3 minutes, it's going to come across like you either don't have any real quality highlights and you are trying to just put something together, or you are trying too hard in general and aren't putting in like the most valuable highlights into your clips. You want to put your strongest, your best moments, your most powerful, impactful plays early on in the video. So if I was to open up a clip, the very first thing I would want to see is the bicycle kick goal. The second thing I want to see is the pressing hard tackle that leads to you winning the ball that sends you in on goal and scores again. I want to see those things early so that I know what your talent level is like. For keepers, a good example of what not to put in is just catching a ball that is shot right at you. That is not a highlight. That's just your job. But what you do want to put in is you rushing out 1v1 and spreading wide to block the shot, and then getting up again and blocking the second shot, and then collecting it and your distribution. So think of the position that you want to be recruited in, and think of how you want to present yourself as a player. You are the one that knows yourself the best. How do you want to come off as a player? And those are the clips that you want to be finding. And you want to have impactful moments that really showcase high level, high level aspects of why you are unique as a player or what makes you effective as a player. If you're a fast player, you're going to want clips of you driving forward with the ball or recovering at speed. Things like this are really important to put into the highlight video. Um, the showcases and ID camps, best practices. Um, Before you go to a showcase, I think it's super important to always be reviewing your target list. This is something that's going to be very fluid and live and will change and will be updated. But before you go to a showcase and ID camp, um, you're going to reach out to every single one of the schools that's on your list. Um, every showcase is going to have a list of schools that has registered to send a coach to that event. Even if the schools you're interested in are not going to be attending an event, communicate to them anyway, because this then builds into your communication plan, and it also lets the college coach know what your environment is like and what your experience as a player is like, and that's going to help inform the college coach about what you're capable of as a player and what they can expect for you as a player in practice and in games. Make sure that your player profile is always up to date. If you have a significant jump in GPA, update it, send it to the coaches that are on your list. Same thing with the highlights. If you have a good highlight video that you really are comfortable with, and you it's 1 minute and 30 seconds, and in the next game you make an incredible play that you're going to add, when you add that to the video, again, send that out to the coaches, even if you just add it and there's no event. So it's important to keep sending these things out. Have a soft copy of your transcripts, especially for older players. It's not always going to be needed, and typically, this is going to be something that you're presenting to a coach later in the process. But sometimes early in the process, a coach asks to see this or asks to be able to view it, and it's good to have. So if you don't already have a soft copy of it, I recommend having it just in case. It is pretty quick to get sometimes too. So if you were requested to show a coach, it's not super difficult to get. However, just having it on hand, I think, is important. Um, Engaging with the schools regularly, emailing them constantly, being super persistent. Again, I cannot stress this enough. This is such a huge part of what the process is like. Um, and I'll share a funny story after, but the things that you want to be putting in this email are updates about yourself, but also updates about who the coach or the staff or what their program has been accomplishing. For example, if you're following along with a school that has won a league title or won a big game, when you email, bringing those types of things into the conversation and being excited for them, again, shows that you are more than just copy and pasting emails to send out to schools. It's part of you showing who you are and showing your character. And my funny story on that is that when I was going through this process, I copy and pasted my emails and I sent them out. And I had sent an email to Sonoma State, and then I copy and pasted and I sent to Chico. And I had a visit with Chico, but I had forgot to change Sonoma State's name and the head coach. So when I sent it to Chico, it was basically saying like, "Hey, I'm really excited to go to Sonoma." And that was embarrassing when I then met with the Chico coach and had to explain why that had happened. So for everybody here, take a lesson from Coach Nate on what not to do. Write every email yourself. You maybe have like a rough draft template of what it can look like, but you should be filling in your own details and your own information, and make it very specific to the program that you're interested in. Make it specific to the school and the area, and anything that you can add that's a little bit more personal is a key indicator of who you are and is going to make it a little bit easier for them to recruit you, or at least try to get to know you and be willing to recruit you. And then anytime we go to an event, a showcase or an ID camp, um, there's a follow-up process. And you should be waiting, maybe 2, 3 days after an event before you reach out again. But it's super important that you thank coaches who came to watch you. Sometimes you won't know, but sometimes you'll see them on the sideline, and you can just follow up and say, "Thank you for coming to the event. It was great seeing you. Thank you for watching. Do you have any advice?" It's another opportunity for you to get some feedback. Oftentimes, college coaches can be brutally honest, but I think it's better to ask and get that feedback and understand where you stand and what you can do, rather than not asking because you don't want to hear the answer or not getting an opportunity to get this chance to speak with a coach and get their feedback. So follow up after the event. Um, Continue to send out the information you have regarding your schedule, regarding where you're going to be and when you're going to be there, and that after the event is a really good touch point for you and for the college coach.
So Nate, I wanted to make one comment when you said about showcases and maybe coaches that are on your target list aren't there. It's still good as coaches talk to each other, right? It coaches will talk to each other and say, "Oh, I saw this kid. I don't need a left-footed center back, but I saw this one. You might need one, whatever." Right? So they do talk to each other.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Good point. So 11th and 12th grader player actions. If you are in this bracket, um, we need to get you active. The most important thing is to update the college list and share with the relevant support network that you have, or create one if you do not already have one. Your support network is your head coach, it's your parents, it's the other staff in Belmont, it's other peers, it's teachers. We want you to let your support network know that you are interested in playing in college. Your support network should know that. And you should be communicating with your support network about the process of navigating it and about how you are going to go about taking actionable steps to get yourself recruited. Gather up any videos that you have, create your highlights, um, and make sure that it's something that's going to showcase your ability. Um, reach out and then continue to reach out and continue to reach out. If you're just starting the process, the reality is that in 11th to 12th grade, you'll be starting a little bit late, but it is not too late to make a meaningful impact in the recruitment and to have real interest in your abilities be generated by good, clear, constant communication, a solid highlight video, and a player profile that shows that you're a good academic achiever. Leverage the network. Again, you can speak with me. I'm not going to have time to meet with every person individually, but you can always shoot me an email and ask questions and ask advice. And I'm sure your head coach and other people in your support network would be more than willing to do this. And then the other thing and the last thing I think, which is super important for you, just making sure that it is a process of you getting better and not just of you trying to get into a school, is be open to feedback and keep going even when you have some setbacks, because there will be some setbacks. Feedback that you get from either myself or your head coach or a college coach that feels negative because it's a bit harsh or it's a reality check can sometimes be the most meaningful feedback that you receive, because it's a wake-up call for what you need to do to improve or start changing your behavior in such a way that you can maybe get an opportunity in the future. And not being open to feedback or taking feedback and having a poor mindset or never asking to receive these types of feedback from people um, is a wasted opportunity. And we want you to be having the most fun in the process, but also making sure that you are learning and growing as well. Ninth and 10th grade, it's a little bit different for the younger players, but it's similar in a lot of different ways. We already discussed a little bit how the communication timeline can be different for how often you reach out. For example, 11th to 12th graders, seniors, you might be reaching out to your college list once a week. Juniors might be reaching out once or twice a month. But before you're in the active window, which for boys is in the junior year and for girls is the sophomore year, that's when it begins. You maybe just are sending out once a month or once a season an email that really gets into who you are, what's going on, your schedule, updated highlights, updated player profile, and an update to your grades. So similar to the 11th and 12th graders, we want you to create a college list that has any information about the school that is relevant to why you want to go there. These are going to be things like, is the college in an urban area or a rural area? Do you want to be on a campus that's in a college town where the town is built around the school? Or do you prefer like a big city and a commuter campus? What is the climate like? I have a good friend who went to play in Ithaca in New York, and he had a lot of fun playing in Ithaca, New York. But it was like playing in the Arctic in the winter, according to him, and just like sweltering swamp in the summer, according to him. And he was able to, deal with it. But I think that's something you should consider as well. If you don't like playing in the cold and you're looking at schools in areas where you know it's going to freeze and be snowing in the winter, this is something to consider. You're also going to want to know, is it an NCAA school, an AIA school? What is the division? Do they offer athletic scholarships in addition to academic scholarships? What are the types of majors that the school has? These are the types of things that are on um, your list of college schools, in addition to the coach contact, their names, their emails, their phone numbers, so that you know who to contact and can plan to reach out to those people directly. Same thing, you want to be gathering up the necessary clips that you can start building a comprehensive highlight video. And you want to make sure that you're learning and working on and practicing your communication skills by sending out these introductory emails and practicing. I'm happy to send out, not send out, but I'm happy to work with you, and you can send me an email and I can sort of respond how a college coach might. We can do a little workshop like that. Um, and we can also have you start to think about attending a showcase or an ID camp that isn't your end all be all showcase or ID camp. For example, if you wanted to go to Brown University, you don't really want your first ID camp to be the Brown University ID camp that you are hoping to get recruited from. I think it's important that, like a job interview, you get experience by going through the process multiple times. It's the same thing with ID camps. ID camps can be interesting and difficult. You're typically playing soccer for 1 or 2 days straight. It's usually in the summer, it's usually hot. It can be physically very demanding. And going to one and competing against players that are older and more experienced than you will sort of let you know where you stand and what you need to work on before you go to an ID camp that is at the school that you really want to attend and make an impact at. Same thing about leveraging your network and asking for feedback. The younger that you start this process, the more it will benefit you because you have a longer window to work on the feedback and advice that you're given. And you can build your network if you start a little bit younger. I typically recommend that freshman year is when you start having all of these things come together. I've got a list at the end that I can show you. But if you were to start this process as a freshman, and build your player profile, your highlight video, create your college list, and start practicing the communication. Then by your junior year, when it really is critical that you have all of this stuff, you'll have what you need. And at that point, if you were to tell yourself, honestly, I don't think I want to play in college, you gave yourself the best chance to play and compete and to go to a school anyway. And if you do want to go to college, you don't have to start from scratch. You'll already have everything that you need. So this is about you taking ownership of the process, getting to know yourself as a player, getting to know the types of schools and opportunities that are out there. And again, it's just important that you are engaging in this and that the player is leading this. This is the checklist that I just mentioned. Um, I want to make sure that everybody is really like hearing the message over and over that college soccer is just one part of the experience. So when you're choosing the school that you want to go to, if you choose a school that you're going to be miserable at for your life, or it doesn't have the major that you want, or it's in an area that you're not going to have fun in, or the climate is going to make you miserable, however you'll be playing, it might not be the best fit for you, even if you're going to be able to play and compete in the team. So make sure that you have a good idea of what it is that you want and set your goals really clearly at the beginning so that as you go through all these other things, you have a framework of what you want to do and you can follow a process versus being reactive. The number one thing is the college list, 20 to 30 schools that you're interested in and that you will then put on that list and do research. This is the starting point, and the research is where you're actually going to find out about the school in ways that are going to help you make an informed decision later. Then player profile. The player profile, again, I can send a template or you can find one online. It's a simple profile, but it is your resume. And again, it's important that a college coach can get a quick access to see who you are, literally who you are with your face on it, but also get a little idea about your position, your grades, and your major achievements. For example, if you were to win, I don't know, high school best player or all league best player, that's something that you could put in there as just like a really quick milestone that if they were to read the player profile, they'll say, oh, wow, he was first team all league goalkeeper. I could use a goalkeeper. So anyway, it's just something that you can start building. The highlight video again is something to start with. Older players, I think there's a little bit more of an urgency that you get a highlight video together, something that you can show to a college coach that may be interested. But for younger players, it's a process to start now and start gathering clips and start making clips and learning how to make clips, learning how to edit clips and add in circles around who you are or highlights around who you are. These are all things that you want to learn so that you can become sort of intuitive with. Create your community of practice, communicate with them, and communicate with your support network often. Um, I had probably every day at my time in Almaden working with the girls' academy teams, at least one player and I were having a meeting every day, even if it was something brief on the field about what's going on with their process. Where are you? What did the coach tell you? How was your phone call? How was the official visit? So this is constantly something that you can be um, working
Please.
with your support network on. And again, having other players that are going through the same process with you always was helpful for me to kind of ease my anxiety and get a better idea of what's happening with other players. And something just to maybe be careful of is not to compare your process to somebody else. You may have a friend that gets recruited as a sophomore, and you may not get recruited until senior year. But there's no two recruitment pathways that are exactly alike. And it's important to know that those friends and those peers around you that are going through the same process will give you some benefits as you go through your own process. Um, and then create your outreach plan. This is going to be when you're communicating to the schools on your target list based around your schedule that align with their schedule so that you can have clear touch points throughout every season and every year that these college coaches are going to hear from you. They'll start to build a relationship with you. And over time, over years, you are going to be able to put yourself in front of them as a recruit with an opportunity. And that's really what we want from everyone is to get a chance, right? We just want a chance for the players. So um, at the end of the day, the process rewards players who are proactive, organized, and persistent. Talent does matter, but the initiative to go out and make yourself recruitable and put yourself out there is what is actually going to be, your success. The biggest gift that you can give to yourself is to learn how to manage your time and is to figure out how you can become a more organized person to start these types of processes in your life. Because if you follow the process at the end of the day, even if you don't earn the opportunity that you really wanted, if you followed a process that met your values and aligned with your philosophy and you worked hard, it's just like what we would tell you on the field. If you gave your best effort, even if you lose the game, there's still a lot of value that can be taken from that. It's very similar here. And back to maybe one more point before we can open it up for questions. Um, no to college process, a pathway navigation process for anybody is going to be exactly the same. And you must take the lead as the player. The player must own this process. So thank you very much for listening. I can open it up to some questions. I think in general, like this is an overview. There's a lot of details and some very nuanced aspects that I didn't cover fully here. If you have a really specific question about your player, um, we can always chat offline as well. We can always get on an email. But if you have some general questions, if there's something else I could help you with, and I have an answer for you, I'd be more than welcome to try and do my best.
We had a few questions. Anybody have questions? I'm going to try to facilitate this. You can also put them in the chat if you don't want to talk, if you don't want to speak up. There's been a little bit of chat going back and forth. Should the video be from showcases or regular games? Rich says any game is fine. We can review your video for you too and give you recommendations.
I'll just
We had
touch on that. We want the most we want recent videos. We want recent videos, like don't show like your little kid highlights, right? Show recent videos of you who you are now as a player or as recently as you can get them. Yeah, any game is fine. There's also one slight difference between a goalkeeping recruitment highlight video. I have known and I have talked to college coaches that also enjoy seeing a goalkeeper training video. So for goalkeepers, I think you can also think about going out and participating in a really intense goalkeeper session that is filmed, because that will show your fundamentals as a keeper. Whereas in a game, you may only get like a moment or two to really demonstrate that, but in a session environment, you can actually showcase what you can do really well as a goalkeeper. So that's something goalkeeper specific you could also do.
We have a question, and it says, any advice for multi-sport athletes? Should they mention it or no? Rich says it depends. Depends on the school, the sport, the player. We can assist you with.
Yeah, when you're reaching out to a the honest answer there is if you're reaching out to, I'll just use Stanford because it's so close. But if you're reaching out to Jeremy Gunn at Stanford, he doesn't care if you play lacrosse also. He wants to know how you're going to help his soccer program, and that's the focus for you. So if you do play other sports, which there are so many benefits from, that's something that's going to help you, but it's not something that you really need to communicate to the college coach unless it's going to affect your ability to play on the team once you're on campus.
Any other questions? We will.
I'll I'll
Go ahead.
jump in a sec.
Yep.
Um, Fantastic presentation. Really enjoyed it. Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Eric. So I've been on I coach college for 4 years. So I've been on the other side, which is just receiving all this stuff, like sitting in an office and receiving videos and emails and constant communication. And as Nate said, like it's really, really hard to filter that down. Like one of the things that was most important to me was, does this kid really want to come to my school? Right. So it was sifting through, if Nate had sent me his email where he'd got the title wrong, I would have deleted Nate, right? So, like, it's like, does this because I was at a Division 1 school, but I was at a mid-major, so I wasn't at like, if you're reaching out to Yukon, I was in Connecticut. If you're reaching out to Yukon and you're reaching out to Fairfield, then you're probably going to pick Yukon over Fairfield if they start recruiting you. So, you know,
So like playing that game as a college coach. So yeah, super important like to know, does this kid really want to come to my school? So that constant communication like is important. And then, coming to the ID camp was big, but I only suggest going to the ID camp if you've had legitimate um, contact with the coach, because obviously the ID camp is a way for the coaches to make money. But if there's been some interest and you've had some contacts, like the ID camp is a really good place for you to get a few things out of it. Like, number one, like, can I see myself on this campus? Number two, do I like the coaches? Uh, number three, can I fit in to like just this, whole environment? So, to me, like, and this is an expensive process, right? So figuring out where you're going to put your money, like as you go through this, if you decide you're actually gonna pursue this, then maybe putting money in certain ID camps that make sense for you, when you've had some contact with coaches, is like potentially an option, like of getting seen by coaches in an easier way than the lottery of showcases. So I used to go to showcases and I would sit down like during the week and I would try to figure out how I'm going to see kids this weekend. So I would like, this was, you know, uh, 12.
You getting out a little bit, Rich. Sure, he had a great point.
And I'd try to put this all together in a spreadsheet. And then I'd somehow try and go and see 40, 50 players that weekend in a showcase. Like, and sometimes I'd show up like for 20 minutes of the game and the player's not on the field and what number are they and how do I figure out who this player is? Like, it's a real lottery sometimes to be seen at a showcase. So I think an ID camp can be valuable as long as you're not just shooting in the dark, right? Oh, I'm just going to show up at this ID camp. They're going to see me and they think I'm great. Like, have you had some communication with the coach? Is this a legitimate option? As Nate said, like, is this the school you want to go to? Do they know that this is a school you want to go to? That could really push you over the edge if you go to that ID camp and you do well. And then the coach also knows, like, oh, this kid wants to come to this school. So that can be super valuable. Um, but yeah, excellent presentation. Really appreciate it, Nate. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, I do want to make a point about the ID camps too. Nate mentioned it earlier. Go to one also that just there's no pressure.
Yep.
My daughter went to one like the St. Mary's one. It's local, fairly local, right? I think she went with Nate's team, and she was really nervous, even though she wasn't interested in any of the three or four coaches and schools that were represented. But it was good for her to kind of go through the process, understand what there is being expected of her. So when she does, or when you do go to an ID camp of a school that you're interested in, you feel a little more comfortable.
And like ultimately, like this whole process is overwhelming. right? Like this is you can just hear talking, like listening to Nate, and like the whole thing is overwhelming. It's overwhelming for college coaches, right? And I think like one of the things that Nate said is like this is a self-recruiting sport. Like 98% of players like are self-recruiting, right? It's how much they are dedicated to the process. Like if you're really dedicated to the process, it can happen. Um, but most kids, in my personal experience, just drop out because it's overwhelming. And it's like going for the best job you want. And imagine doing that as I'm 45, right? So imagine going for, I don't know, Coach Hampton or whatever I want to do. Like, I'm gonna have to be my best self every day for a very long time to pursue my dream. And we're asking 15, 16, 17-year-olds to do that. Most of them ultimately, while they're also combining high school and all the pressures that come with that, they ultimately drop out and they say, like, I didn't want to play soccer anyway. Maybe they did want to play soccer, but this whole process just became overwhelming. And that's why, like, the players who have a plan and they start early and they go for it, um, they can still get recruited because there's so much dropout. Because this is a really hard, overwhelming process. It's super difficult. But if you really want it, it's possible. There is a school there that can fit. And even if you don't end up wanting to play in the school, you want to play club soccer or whatever, soccer can support your application to get to the school that you want, which is also an important message. Thanks, Eric and Nate, and I really appreciate the time and effort you put in.
Yeah, our
Again,
pleasure. I just want
yep.
to go ahead,
Go
Eric.
ahead. No, I was gonna reiterate. I do feel like our players and parents and families are a little different. You know, I did work with SMC, of course I did work, which is was really focused on um, less fortunate kids getting a chance to play, and some of them, most of them, was their only chance to go to college was to play soccer. Juventus was a little more mixed bag, but still a lot of emphasis on the need for sports to be able to go to college. I think we're a little bit different where our intention for our children are to go to college, and I think that academics is coming first is super important. Um, and again, you know, Sevilla's gone to surf a couple times, and we suggested they talk to coaches just to get used to talking to them. I will tell you the first thing the coach is going to ask you is what's your GPA, and so before they even talk to you about anything else. And I feel really strongly that our Belmont kids have really strong academics, and just want to keep reemphasizing that. But go ahead, close us out here, Nate.
Well, I just want to tell the story one more time about the player because this is sort of the model that that I think works the best for most kids, especially in this area, which is that there can be a really specific and targeted approach for your player that is a strategy to reach out to schools that they're interested in for their academic needs, where they may also have a chance to play soccer. And this strategy, this targeted strategy does take work, but a little girl who didn't grow up with much, who lived in Hollister, didn't have a lot of money, didn't have a lot of opportunities outside of her own brain and her own efforts, was able to essentially, like if she finishes school there, she's going to have a great opportunity to have like a super successful job right away out of college and have a great life. And she was able to leverage her ability to play um, and use a targeted approach to find schools that matched her academic and athletic needs. And she ended up with five choices. So at the end of the day, this player had five choices that she wanted. She wanted to go to all five schools. They were all great schools. They were all great fits in different ways and had pros and cons to them. But at the end of the day, this is what we would ideally like your player to experience as well. That they're not just getting the only offer that they've ever received, and then they have to go to a certain school that might not be the best fit for them, whether that be on an academic or athletic basis. And so if the players here are serious and follow the process, um, I believe that we can get you to a school that you're really interested in if you want to play. And again, I think the opportunities are there. Rich said it best. There is a school for you. There's so many opportunities and options. If you really want to pursue it, there is a school for you. The other added benefit, and the last thing I'll say is that the process of creating the list and doing the research is very revealing for what the college experience is going to be like and what the academic environment is going to be like on campus too. So by going through this process focused on college recruitment for soccer, your player is also going to learn a lot about how to do their own research, how to take the lead and follow their own pathway, and then how to make an informed decision on their own based on the research that they did. And this is kind of the idea that they're taking ownership and leadership, and we are empowering them to make that choice and to have a choice at the end of the day. So I really am passionate about it, and I'm super happy to be here in Belmont and be happy to work with any of you that have more questions, and answer any more questions throughout the next couple of weeks. If you guys want to reach out, feel free to shoot me an email, or we can arrange maybe a time to Zoom or meet on the field and have a quick chat. Um, and yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity, Rich and Eric and Ojan, to come in and speak about this stuff. And I'm really happy to be, maybe taking the next step with you guys to create a better plan for our players. It's really fun.
So for those of you, I think you all have Rich's email. My guys obviously have mine. I just wanted to throw yours out there, Nate. Hopefully you don't get inundated with stuff. But I thought we'd have you out there since you're the new guy on the block, right?
Perfect.
And it's just really just Nate.flowers@belmontunited.org. Um, so they're always Nate is a busy guy. He's got 3 or 4 teams, whatever he's got, plus some other duties. I'm sure he will get back to you as best he can. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cheers. Thanks for that.
Thank you everybody for attending. Hopefully it was informative. Like I said, reach out. Again, it's better to have the option to say yes than decide too late and not be able to get into someone. And I will tell you through the people, and just again reiterate, if you want to play, there's a place for you. I mean, I see a lot of not as talented players getting college scholarships because they put in the work.
Eric, can I piggyback off that just before we
Yep.
head out?
Yep.
So just like some interesting information on what Eric just mentioned. Um, I've coached the U19 here for the last 3 or 4 years, and I can't tell you how many times our seniors get all league awards, MVP awards at their high school, at their local high schools. If you look at any high school game around here, you're going to see our red bags everywhere. So I think at that age, they usually find out that they are qualified to play collegiate level, but I think they find that information out a bit too late. So they're already seniors and they're already picking their schools and they're already on their way. But to Eric's point, like it is definitely an option for players at our club. So I'm really happy that we did this, and I hope all the players can, really take confidence in that there is a school for you if you so want to play at this level. And we, as coaches and directors, can give you honest feedback on where you may land. So thank you guys. Yeah, let's have confidence. I think we can definitely do this.
100%. Thanks, guys.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Cheers. Thanks everyone for coming. Good night.
Thank you.
You.